Guys, good to see you. I'm Marie. This is my knitting podcast, Goldmarie Hollywood Knits. It's the second episode in English. I actually recently made one in German. I wanted to have the second episode in English up earlier, but I've been traveling to Germany in March for a couple of weeks, and when I came back, I wasn't feeling well. So, even more so, I'm happy that you're back. And if it's the first time you're watching me, welcome to my knitting podcast. I heard from other people who actually watch video podcasts that they don't like the introduction and the blah, blah, blah at the beginning, and they just fast forward to where it all starts. So here we go, here it all starts. Today I want to show you three of my designs. One of it I just finished recently. I'm very excited about it. And after that, we have a little bit more of blah blah. I can have some tips for you, and maybe you enjoy that. Let me start with the cardigan I'm wearing. I love this cardigan. I wear it a lot. I want to get up and show you a little bit more. So this is a cabled cardigan. It has some white ribbing here all over. That's why you don't have to do any extra shaping, because it just always fits for the person who's wearing it. And I work the cables here on the left and the right side of the V-neck, but I did not work any decreases on the neckline. They all worked from the side, so there's nothing interrupting the cable, because that's what I really don't like. I want it to be chic. It has a little bit like Italian style, I would say. And I worked a cable right across the sleeves. There are no cables in the back because it's just too much work and nobody really sees them. I used a lace yarn. It's called West Yorkshire Spinners Exquisite, and it's just really an exquisite yarn. It's a mix of a special merino yarn from sheep that only live in the UK and mulberry silk. I held the yarn double, so 2 lace mixed fingering yarn. It's about 100 grams and 400 meters. I used 250 grams for myself. This is a small size. And I wrote down the pattern, and it's up on Ravelry. It's called the Astrid cardigan on my Ravelry store, Goldmarie Hollywood Knits. It comes in 3 different sizes. I made this one a little shorter because I want to wear it with a dress or with slim pants. And I personally think if you're wearing a skirt or a dress and you have a longer cardigan, the proportions are just not working right, at least not for me. This length I'm wearing right now is, I think, perfect even for layering. I'm wearing a very interesting crochet shirt underneath. I'll show it again to you. It's very old. I didn't make it myself, unfortunately. I bought this in Germany. It has sequins. I just wanted to show you I'm wearing jeans, so if you can dress up, you can probably go to work like that, or I think you can go anywhere like that, but that's just me. Yeah, a super nice cardigan. I love the yarn, and there is really shortly, I will make a pattern for a matching tee that you can wear underneath. So it's going to be then altogether kind of like a twin set, which I really like, because the shirt from a twin set, you can always wear like a slip over, wear a blouse underneath, or so. I travel a lot, and I try to travel with carry-on, because internationally, checked-in luggage is so expensive, like $100 more or so. So I try to not do that and travel with carry-on. Or there are podcasts just for, I don't know, traveling to Europe for 2 weeks with just carry-on, and I love watching those, I have to say. Yeah, I mean, come on, what do you really need? It's just, you don't have to have 5 different outfits for every day. So speaking of traveling, I have one other tip here right away before I start with the second pattern, traveling. I do travel a lot, and I always read Facebook, um, Facebook comments in other groups or so. I don't watch knitting videos that much. I watch other podcasts, like for example, podcasts about how to make a YouTube video. I watch those, but not so much for knitting because that's a distraction for me. So I try to avoid that. But on the Facebook pages, there are a couple of questions that always pop up that people want to know things. And one of the questions is, can you travel with your knitting needles? And is it allowed to knit on the plane? So it depends on the airline. That's the first thing I have to say. You always have to make sure before you leave what are the rules for the airline, because sometimes they can be quite different. I'm traveling a lot. I go back and forth to all kinds of countries since I know my husband, and that's many years. I've never had any issues, and most airlines allow that you bring your knitting needles on the plane and that you actually knit on the plane. So it's usually not a problem until it is. What I learned from listening to others, and it kind of makes sense for me too, it also depends on the person you're running into at the security check. I mean, come on, they're sometimes like really, really rude, aren't they? I mean, they treat you like you're going to jail or so. I have sometimes have problems with other things that I have on my carry-on, which are usually allowed, but then, like for example, I had this mini tiny Swiss knife. It's like really tiny, and it's allowed because it's so small. I didn't bring it because I needed a knife, but it has a tiny scissors and some other tools that are really handy. And yeah, they took it away and threw it in the trash. So, and you can do anything. You cannot say, but it's allowed. They just do what they want. So the question is, what do you do with your knitting needles when you check in? I never put my expensive and things that I really can't afford to lose. I don't put that in my checked in carry suitcase. I don't put it in my checked in suitcase. Here we go. Like things that are really precious, like my husband, for example. So, yeah. No, but not jewelry and papers. Also, I always have that in carry-on, and my knitting stuff travels with me in my carry-on. It's not a problem if you're using wooden needles, like birch. I have birch wood needles. I have bamboo. And those are organic materials, and especially if you stick them into the yarn, which is also organic, it wouldn't show on the X-ray. So that's usually not a big problem. And I have interchangeable sets that I always use. So the cables, I put them together in a small case where I have my charging cables or my earplugs and stuff. So there's already cables involved. Not a problem. With the metal needles, it's a little more tricky because, I mean, I have those metal needles here, the Ferrari of the knitting needles. I usually don't travel with those. I'm just too worried anything can happen. But, I mean, if you really want to bring the metal set, you know, they have bamboo too. If you want to bring the metal needles, I have a really good trick for what you can do. So what you want to do is, when I travel, especially to Europe, I always bring an umbrella. Umbrellas are allowed, you know. And there are these metal sticks inside. So that's already metal for the X-ray. What I just do is I hide the needle in the haystack. I just put my knitting needles in there, close the umbrella, I put it in my carry-on, and on the X-ray, nobody will see anything that there is knitting needles in there. So that would be my trick. I don't know how it's going to be like with the new X-ray machines coming up, you know, that they're changing so that you can go through a security check with a full water bottle or so. That's because they're having new X-ray machines or a new system. how to check your luggage, which I'm really grateful for. And I don't know how it's going to be like that, but metal is still metal. So I think if you hide them in the umbrella, you're fine. Yeah, that's gonna be now the part where I introduce my second knitting sweater. I finished that actually during my stay in Germany when I was visiting my friend Heike in Winterberg. Yeah, we were sitting on her couch together and had a glass of wine. So I'm really excited. Um, this is a polo sweater with a V-neck, and it's all knit in one piece. This is knit from bottom up in the round on round needles, and then you knit the sleeves. If you want to, you can knit them round needles also, like with a double pointed, um, circular, short ones, long ones, magic loop, whatever. I didn't. I like to knit back and forth, so I just sew them together later. But this is supposed to be a sweater that you can knit without any sewing involved at all. Just like my other model that I had in my first video, the Doesn't Seem So sweater. This is the same thing. It's also a Doesn't Seem So sweater. There's no sewing involved. When you reach the armpits, everything comes together on one circular needle, and the decreases are worked on the circular needle, but it's not a raglan and it's not a round yoke. It actually looks like a satin sleeve when it's done, like a regular sleeve cap. You have those regular wide shoulders, which I really like. I'll try to bring it a little closer. So it does look like the sleeves are set in and sewn in, but it's not. It's all worked in one piece. And when you reach the shoulders, you have those shoulder stitches left. This is worked together instead of sewing with a 3-needle bind off. And after that, yeah, you just keep on knitting and knit the polo collar, which has some extra special increases here to make it nice and round. For the pink one, I mean, I really love the color. Isn't it beautiful? I'm a pink person, but I used a brushed alpaca silk yarn. It's light, it's fluffy. It comes in small balls, 25 grams, but it has kind of like almost 200 meters. It's called brushed alpaca silk, and it's from Gun Studio Drops. That's a brand from Scandinavia, I think. If you haven't checked them online, please do. They have more like 8,000 patterns online in every language I can possibly think of, and they're all free. Beautiful patterns and beautiful inspiration. It's not really my style. I like it more form-fitted, but still, they have like really, really nice things. And actually, I'm going to show you one that I recently made last summer or so. So this is Drops yarn brushed alpaca silk. For myself, I used less than 5 balls. It's very affordable yarn. I used a size S and needed 5.5 millimeters. I think that's the US 7. The yarn is held single thread. It's very light. It's almost like a mohair, but it's not as fuzzy. It doesn't shed. And some people think that mohair can be itchy, so this is not itchy at all. I actually really love this yarn. It's perfect. It knits up quickly and has a nice drape. So this is the brushed alpaca, but because I like that sweater so much, I made a second one. And this is a mohair, kid silk mohair, like we often use. It's I think it's a fingering kid silk held double. So that's the same sweater in Rowan kid silk haze, and the color is called bluebell. Bluebell. Same technique, you can see it a little better maybe here. That's the seam for the sleeve cap, but it's all knitted, no sewing. I swear. Even under the sleeves, under the arms, no sewing. The only thing you have to do with the darning needle in the end is just weave in the ends. So again, this is kid silk haze. Come from so many different brands. The kid silk, they're pretty much all the same, but this is held double because the brushed alpaca silk is not a fingering. For a Garn Studio Drops has the fingering yarns called like yarn group A, and this is A plus, no, I'm sorry, the fingering A, and the brushed alpaca is C. So two fingerings, A plus A makes a C. I don't know what that is in English, if that's Aaron or something like that. So this is kid silk yarn held double. I also used maybe 120 grams, even though it's held double. Knits up super quickly. It's a little more, what can I say? I don't want to say itchy. It's not, but it's not as soft as the brushed alpaca silk. I have the design up on Ravelry. The sweater is called the LILPOP Polo, and you can download it in English and in German. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you like the sweater as much as I do. Yeah, my next tip. What I also read a lot online was when people asked about how to knit beautiful necklines, for whatever that means, beautiful. But I think people don't have problems actually with the necklines, but with knitting the neckband. And what they probably mean is picking up the stitches. I found that sometimes in patterns, especially the English ones, I think they don't use the correct terms. Like sometimes it says for the decreases for the neckline, they say cast off or bind off 3 stitches. I think you're not working a cast off or a bind off unless you're finished with the sweater or you have like more than 5 stitches to work. If you want to have this round, smooth round corner here, edge, it's not a bind off or a cast off. You have to make decreases. And that can be different for different yarns and different things you're knitting. I can show you what I mean. If you bind off, you knit the 2 stitches and then you have a slip the first over the second. With a bind off, can I show you that here more clearly? You get these bumps here, and that makes it hard later on to pick up the stitches for a smooth neckline. So what I do, I try to avoid the bumps, and there are different ways to do that. Doesn't matter how you do it, I think. The result is that what counts, and you want to have this smooth, this would be like for a V-neck, you want to have this smooth line. Decreasing 1 stitch or 2 is easy. With 1 stitch, I usually knit 2 together, or purl 2 together, it depends on which end I'm working. With 2 stitches, that's already, that really depends on the yarn and how you want it to look like. If I want to hide my decreases, I would knit 3 together. If I want to have them kind of like visible and pretty visible, I would probably knit 2 together and then knit 2 together, or depending on the size, knit your slip knit. Sometimes I slip the first stitch at the beginning of a row. Sometimes I knit the first stitch either with knitting 2 together or single. You really have to try and work out what works best for you or looks best. Also, what I learned is if you're picking up stitches for the neckband or the button band, for me the easiest and you can find that in books also. If you knit the first and the last stitch of a row, it has a special edge stitch that makes it easier to pick up stitches when you're done. And what you also do this way, you pick up a stitch for every row, and it's easier to see if you knit the first and the last stitch. It's easy to see where the rows are. You pick up 3 stitches and then you slip the 4th, because if you pick up all the stitches for the button band, it's just going to be too big. And I'm pretty sure it happened to you before, that it was kind of like all the stitches, there's just too many stitches for the button band or for the neckline, and then it falls in waves. I don't really like that. So try that maybe next time. And it's also really important that the stitches you are picking up, and you can see when they're lined up on your needle, that they're all in the same, that the space between those stitches are the same. So if you have kind of like a bigger gap there or so, you want to avoid that. And if you have like 2 stitches too close together, that doesn't work well either. So you want to have it like evenly. That's the whole art of that. I know it doesn't always work, and believe me, I mean, I have to sometimes try different times. I just finished a tank top actually today, and I don't like the finishing at the sleeve and at the sleeve hole and the neck. So, but I crocheted it, and I just not gonna look at. So I have to frog it and then do it again. But just make sure that you like what you do, because otherwise you're not going to wear this. So that was my tip for the neckline. What else do I have? Yeah, and the last pattern I would like to show you is something I knit, and I used a pattern from Ganz Studio Drops. It's a summer tee. I think it's called Soda Fountain. It's knit from top down, and has a beautiful yoke here with just 6 stitches. And I used to have some of my fingering yarn that I had, it's a hand dyed, all those hand dyed yarns that we buy. And I have to say, I don't knit socks. I don't really enjoy knitting socks. I already have a problem when I have to make 2 things that are identical. It doesn't matter if it's knitting or crocheting or whatever. With sleeves, it's a little different. I know a lot of you have problems with the second sleeve, but for sleeves it's a little easier for me, because I just know how many stitches I have to increase, and it doesn't really matter if, it doesn't have to be every 4th row, if you do like every 4, every 6, and then whatever. So it doesn't have to be so accurate like socks. Also, I have to say, I don't like wearing knitted socks. They look beautiful, but it's just not comfortable underneath my foot. I think it's the pro stitches that I'm working on. What I want to do is, the next thing I try is I knit a pair of socks, and the sole will be stockinette but reverse, so that I have the knit stitches inside of the sock near my foot, and the purl stitches are outside. I think that could work better. Yeah, so maybe I knit some socks soon. Okay, friends, that was it for today from me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some inspiration. I hope you will be back soon for my 3rd episode. In the next episode, I'll probably have a new design up for you, and I want to talk a bit about my friends here in America that I met, and especially one dear friend, and she knits, but that's a different story, and that's going to be next time. Bye! Have a great May, and I hope you never knit alone.